Good morning, everyone. My name is Shivani. For those who don't know me, welcome to everyone who has arrived this morning, and also those who were with us yesterday and this morning. There were almost 200 souls who shared together the joy of satsanga, the joy of being together and sharing the light and the love and inspiration which God sends us in every moment of our lives. For those who were here yesterday, I want to thank you for the comments and the wonderful questions that you asked, especially about communities, which is one of the most important subjects in this moment. As Yogananda had foreseen 100 years ago, I'd like to add that most of the communities in Ananda are urban communities in cities where people either live together or are close to each other, and they share a spiritual life, and at the same time they have their family life and their work. This is true in America and also in India. And in these days and months, many of them are looking for land outside of the cities. In America, there are already farms that are connected to the different communities in Palo Alto and Seattle, and the same thing is happening in India. So there are huge possibilities for cooperating and sharing satsang. Not only in Ananda Sisi and Ananda Village, but anywhere that someone feels the need to be together with their spiritual family. In these moments, the question might come, as it did to me, if God is loving, why did He permit this virus to attack all of humanity, to take away many people, to give us fear? Why did God do this? This question comes from a perspective of being too close to events, instead of a perspective that is longer, from farther. We are living in this moment, which seems like a mountain, and it is for us. But there are other ways to see and to understand this moment in history. Yesterday, I talked about the research from this French doctor, and many of you have asked for information about this. What I said yesterday was that the virus has a certain vibrational frequency in hertz. And this virus, as many, has a very low frequency, between 5 and 15. The frequency of high elevated feelings are very high. He mentioned gratitude, which has a frequency of 45, compared to the virus, which is 5 to 15. Generosity has the frequency of 95, love, universal love, higher than 200. And he said, when we keep our vibrations high, as we know how to do through many of our practices on the path of self-realization, we are protected. Because the vibration of the virus cannot enter. One thing that I didn't say yesterday is that reactions and negative emotions, like many people have right now, these lower our vibration. Remember that the virus vibrates with a frequency of 5 to 15. Fear has the frequency of 0.2 up to 2.2 hertz. So when our emotions bring us into fear, they open us to the virus. Anger has a frequency of 1.4, much lower than the virus, which means the door is open. Resentment, 0.6 up to 3. Even irritation, and who doesn't feel irritation, has the frequency of 0.9 up to 3.8. When we react in the moment, we are lowering our vibrations. Whereas in the affirmation, which we heard today, it talks about longer rhythms of life. And I'd like to repeat one thing, which says, to tune the heart to the rhythms of eternity, one must first adjust himself to life's longer rhythms. He should not allow his mind to become absorbed in concentration on the little ripples at the surface of the sea. This is talking about longer rhythms of life. What can a longer rhythm be, of which this moment of the virus is just a temporary rhythm? I'll tell you a story that I read in Autobiography of a Yogi, which is a little difficult. This is when Mahavatar Babaji, with his disciples, they're in the high Himalaya mountains. They are sitting around a fire, and they just finished a Vedic ceremony. Suddenly, Babaji takes from the fire a piece of wood, which is very hot, and he turns to one of his disciples and he touches him on the shoulder and burns him with it. Lahiri Mahashaya was present in that moment. He says to his master, Guruji, this was so cruel of you. And Babaji responded, you cannot imagine that which was going to happen to this disciple. If I had not burned him on the shoulder, he would have been completely burned up over his whole body. And then he put his hand on the devotee's shoulder and healed it instantly. We can't see the longer rhythms on this world, on this earth. But what could be a great pain that is awaiting us? Yogananda made many prophecies, and these are also difficult to hear. Today I am wearing the robe of Shiva. In these predictions, he predicted two more world wars. He said that through these two wars, this is a quote, the old world will be practically destroyed. A new world will emerge like a phoenix from its ashes. From that moment in pure humanity, nauseated by war, will know peace and prosperity for hundreds of years. He predicted wars, and afterwards he predicted a moment of a period, a world filled with light. In between, there are these two wars. So how can we put this moment of the pandemic in the proper framework in which the whole world has a common enemy? The way things are going in the world, it definitely seems to be going in the direction of a world war. There's violence everywhere. Religion, politics, sports, in families. Violence that shows in music and art. It's accelerating this frequency of violence, which cannot end in any other way than a world war. And yet, as I think, the good God in His benevolence, in His love for His children, has brought us this war so that we can understand that together, through cooperation, through tolerance, through understanding, finally we can understand that we are all one, that we are, as Swami sang, we are brothers. This we can understand when we need to unite ourselves to combat an enemy. So maybe as Babaji saved the life of his disciple, giving him a little bit of pain, maybe God is saving us, all of humanity, from two wars by bringing us this virus, which, as we know, many of us, is a moment to reflect and to change our perspective and our way of living. It's a moment of attuning ourselves to the longer rhythms of life. What are the longer rhythms of humanity? all of humanity has a rhythm of life. It's not really very healthy. Who among us is not too busy to pay attention to the important things in our lives? We neglect things that are important, but because we have too much to do, we have to make money, we have to buy things, consumerism, take vacations. So through this, we have a rhythm of life in which we are neglecting our families, our children, our health, our growth, our inner growth, the rhythm of life. Oh, today, before this moment, was very frantic, crazy. This is not living. This is like little mice in a cage who run around a treadmill and don't get anywhere. So, as a human race, we have a moment to reflect on the frenesy, the craziness of our daily life, and to think maybe the moment has come, which has been imposed on us in the whole world, to slow down, to say stop, to reflect, to understand what are the human values instead of material values, human values which have not brought us any happiness. Tuning ourselves into the natural rhythms of life can bring great joy. I will tell an experience that I had in my first years at Ananda in California. For 8 years, I served in the organic garden. I was the only one that stayed there in that one job for 8 years. Other people wanted to make other experiences, but I felt very dedicated to the ideal of being self-sustaining on the level of producing food. And it took me 8 years to get really good at it. Because before arriving at Ananda, I had spent 20 years just studying at school, and I was very ambitious. I couldn't live a relaxed life, a natural life. I always felt pushed to be good, to be successful, to pass all the exams. So I arrived at the community with the only talents I had was the ability to concentrate and study. And by God's grace, the idea came to me to help in the organic garden. For these 8 years, I learned so much. It almost brings me to tears how many spiritual lessons I learned in that garden, putting myself in contact with the earth, with the rhythms of the seasons, with the needs of the living things. the needs of the earth itself, how you can't rush the growth of a plant. Every plant has its own rhythm that must be respected. You cannot always plant the same kind of plant on the same piece of land. You have to change them to help enrich the land. And these rhythms made me slow down and calm myself and gave me the ability to nourish my inner life. As the Old Testament says in Ecclesiastes, for everything there is a season to rejoice, to cry, to plant, and to harvest. And these rhythms have been missing in our lives. And now we can enter into these long rhythms of our lives. And not only on an outer level, but also on an inner level. What can we understand from our longer rhythms inwardly? What can we learn in this moment? Yesterday, Kirtani said something that's going through the social networks. It says, "Dear, no cinema, no film, no restaurants, no sporting events, no social events, very reduced work activity. Now that I have taken away all of these things, all of your responsibilities, is there time for us to talk?" And it's signed God. As we know, this is our opportunity. As Yogananda said, this I can put off, that I can put off, but my search for God cannot be put off. Hari Mahashaya said, listen to the inner sound of the heart, the Om. This is the greatest duty, the highest duty of humanity. This is our opportunity to attune ourselves to a longer rhythm of our soul, of our evolution, the long wave of self-realization, remembering God. We are here for this, not for a frantic life, not for a life of greed, of acquiring things. We are here to know God. In this lifetime is wonderful for all of us. We have all of the conditions that are needed to be able to go inward into the inner kingdom of God, to dedicate ourselves more and more deeply to our search for God. Yogananda said, remember always that if you are inwardly calm, nothing can disturb you. Nothing can disturb you. You must learn to remain still, unshaken amidst the crash of breaking worlds. You must learn to remain steadfast in the midst of breaking worlds. It seems like this is a moment that the world is crashing, but when we are still, calm, centered in ourselves, we have the strength not only to overcome, but to evolve and grow. The Bhagavad Gita says, not even the greatest suffering can disturb the equanimity of the wise man. He remains unmoved, unshaken in the midst of the crash of breaking worlds. You can stay centered in the middle of crashing worlds by maintaining your mind at this Christ center. When we remain here every day, deeply in the calm of our interiorization, we are expecting that things will return to normal. But life will never be again as it was 3 months ago. This is a historic moment of enormous changes for all of the world. And if we try to bring ourselves back into the past, that means we haven't learned the lessons. We will not have really accepted the challenges and opportunities of this moment. We must accept that our lives must change. It will never be the same. And what are the changes that we want to welcome in our lives? That of greater depth, more contact, more inner communion, and more service to others. As Yogananda promised us, there is a world that is waiting for us. Whatever the future is bringing us, one thing is certain. We can expect radical changes in our lives in the years to come. Great seers have spoken loudly about imminent calamities. At the same time, however, they have affirmed that through the tunnel of obscurity which is coming, we can see a beautiful land filled with light, more than any human being can remember. They affirm that the tests that they are predicting are the preparation for a better world, a necessary purification, and not just a punishment for past sins. Let's repeat again the affirmation from today. Sit up straight, close your eyes, enter into the heart center, and affirm with conviction out loud, I am neither the ripples at the surface of the sea, nor yet the crashing waves. I am the vast ocean deeps, unaffected by mighty surface storms, untouched by any superficial change. I am the vast ocean deeps, unaffected by mighty surface storms, untouched by any superficial change. One last provision from the Master. Today and for the days, months, and years to come, Yogananda says, I predict you will see a new world. Thank you, God.